of Brooklyn, where stories grow wild to the glow of the stage where the dream meets the child. A quiet flame, a hidden spark, drawn to the words that lit up the dark. Curtains rose and so did he, finding power in poetry. One voice, one mic, one sacred truth. Every word he spoke uncaged the youth. He saw the world try to silence the bold, but his soul was wired to break the mold. Now he walks in purpose, pure and true. He was born to speak.
Welcome to Born to Speak to You TV, where conversations don't just inform, they transform. And where we speak life into the moments that matters. I'm your host, Calvin Gibbs, and today we're not sugarcoating anything. We're going to get right to it. In the last 6 to 9 months, over 600,000 women in this country have lost their jobs. Now, that's not just a statistic. That's rent not being paid. That's bills not being paid. That's families being stressed, dreams delayed, and confidence shaken. But here's the truth. We're not here to sit in the problem. We're here to break it down and then build it back up. Because losing a job doesn't mean that you're losing your value. So joining me today is a financial strategist and a financial analyst, and her name is LaWanna Bradford. Today we're going to have a real conversation about what's happening, why it's happening, and most importantly, what you can do about it. We'll be right back after this short message. Welcome to Born to Speak to You TV, where we're speaking life into the moments that matter. This isn't just a show. It's a movement. It's a space where stories are honored, voices are lifted, and truth has a mic. Each episode, we dive into powerful conversations on identity, on equity, growth, healing, leadership, and the courage that it takes to speak up in a world that often wants us to keep quiet. Whether it's through personal testimony, community impact, or artistic expression, Born to Speak to You is where voices rise and change begin. Our mission is simple: to empower people to use their voice, own their truth, and build bridges of communication and understanding. So, sit back or lean in, because you're about to witness what happens when passion meets purpose. This is Born to Speak to You TV. Let's speak life. And we are back. This is Born to Speak to You TV. And today my guest is LaWanna Bradford. She is a MPA. She's a global strategist, financial analyst, and media personality with 30 plus years of experience in driving over $2 billion in operational efficiencies. As the COO of the Bradford Group and creator of the R3 system, she empowers leaders to refocus, reframe, and reconnect for sustainable growth and relevance. She has trained over 48,000 professionals worldwide, and she's a 5-time best-selling author with Pledge Allegiance reaching #1 on Amazon. Her motto is, when vision meets opportunity, success is inevitable. Welcome to Born to Speak to You, LaWanna.
Thank you so much for having me, Calvin. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Yes, it's a pleasure to have you. I've been looking forward to this as well. Today's episode is called The Comeback Blueprint. The Comeback Blueprint. Now, as I said in the teaser there, in the last 6 to 9 months, there's been over 600,000 women in this country that has lost their jobs. That's a crisis. That's a crisis. So we're going to talk about the causes, the impact, and accountability about what's really driving this wave of job loss among women, in your opinion.
Yeah, it's actually 600,000 African American women.
Mm,
And to not politicize this conversation, we're just in a place where systemic injustices are really rising to the surface in rapid succession. When we're looking at just from July through October of last year, it was 300,000. And these are top professionals who have been in the job for a long time. They started with the government being impacted, and then you have the trickle down effect. So people forget that the US government, is the largest employer. That means your major consulting firms, contractors, rely on the government for jobs. So if it's impacting at the government level, then you're looking at what's happening with your major consulting firms. So again, what we're experiencing now is that trickle down effect. And I have my own personal opinions as to why the powers that be that are making their decisions. But if we go down that rabbit hole, Calvin, you and I would be going back and forth politically. And I don't think that's what we want to do on this stage.
and this show would end up being 5 or 6 hours, in fact,
Yes.
because I have a lot of ideas about why things are going on as well. So thank you for that. Are there any certain industries that's being hit harder than others right now?
I really think across the board, we're seeing just this pain point. What's happening now, obviously, because we're in a wars, industries that are supporting the war effort, they may be stalling on letting people go. They may be ramping up in other areas. But unlike the pandemic, where we had a lot of service-related industry, hospitality industry, travel industry was greatly impacted. This seems to kind of be across the board with industries. And I do want to correct something what I just said. And I'll speak not so much the industry, but job specific. So those jobs that were focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion, or programs that focused on marginalized communities, populations, those have been disproportionately impacted.
Got you. And when you do research on this subject, as I did, they don't talk about the demographics too much. I searched hard and I could not find too much on demographics. So thank you for clearing that up and letting us know exactly who's being hit by these job losses. So would you say that this is a short-term disruption, or is this a long-term workplace shift, workforce shift?
No, this definitely isn't short term. I believe that at this point in our lives, this is the new normal. We are in a disruptive environment. If you look at just the history of business or the history of commerce, the time span between one change to another, we started agrarian, then industrial, and so forth now, and now we're going from digital to AI. Those windows are getting shorter and shorter, which means there's constantly disrupting, right? Constantly changing. So as leaders, I always challenge individuals, whether you're a leader in your home, your community, that entrepreneur, C-suite, you really have to think, how do I manage this disruption? How do I ride the wave and not be overtaken by the wave? Because change it's speeding up, and we have to get used to this level of change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you talk about AI, I've been doing a lot of research on AI in the last 9 months. I've been on several panels speaking about it, podcasts as well. And I can't get a straight feel if AI is going to take away jobs or if it's going to add jobs. I've even talked to some people that are managers where the companies are looking for people with AI experience, and they won't give me a solid answer, which kind of answers the question for me anyway. But what role do you think that corporations and policymakers play in what we're seeing right now?
Oh, it's massive. They're massive players at the table, and I think AI has become normalized in the everyday language, everyday household. But AI has been around 30 plus years. It's not new, but it's, again, the everyday person is now touching it. When you're looking at, I'll say, the mortgage industry, 20 plus years ago, we started using AI technology to help with our demographics, forecasting, looking at where shifts were going to happen in the marketplace. So it's not new. Will we lose jobs? Absolutely. We're going to lose a lot of jobs. Any technology, anything artificial, any robotics, it does that because it's about creating efficiency, minimizing the cost to do business so that you increase your profit margins. That's reality. I would be lying to you if I said, oh no, your job's going to be safe. I'm using AI because I was able to, instead of hiring, a major research team, well, I can use AI to do the exact same thing faster, right? So now I'm able to be able to operate more efficiently and pass on those cost savings to my clients. So AI is not necessarily a bad thing, but if you are in certain industries, then look at tooling up, reskilling, find out what else can you do to ride this new wave.
Okay. And then my next question, LaWanna, is about my dear friend, corporate America. Corporate America. Do you feel, this is just your opinion, do you feel that companies are doing enough to support those displaced workers?
They're doing what they can. And again, so there's a political piece that's tied to this, right? So when you're looking at all the players at the highest of tables, I have to be careful because I'm trying to protect my bottom line. I'm trying to protect my stakeholders' interests. So yes, I'm concerned about the employee, but I have a greater concern on the other end. So this is all about self-preservation right now, survival of the fittest. And I tell individuals, if you are in corporate America, then own your place. Don't rely on Big Brother, if you will, to take care of you, because the likelihood, maybe not. If you're seeing that, and I'll use an example within public health, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. If you had told us 2 years ago that we would see the dismantling of the world's largest public health agency that dictates and helps improve and prevent health outcomes around the world, if you would have said that we would have seen what we saw last year, everyone would have said that's literally impossible.
Right.
So if an organization which is designed to improve the quality of life for humanity is at stake and is basically operating on bones right now, then who else is in jeopardy?
Very good question. Very good question. Let's put a pin in it right here and take a break for a very short message. We'll be right back. This is Born to Speak to You TV. This episode is the Comeback Blueprint. You're not going to want to miss what's coming up next. we are back. This is Born to Speak to You TV. I'm Calvin Gibbs. My guest today is LaWanna Bradford, and we're talking about the comeback blueprint and what's going on in this country with over 600,000 Black women losing their employment. I want to move into the next segment. This is the human cost, emotional, social impact, what it's doing to people. So what happens emotionally and mentally when someone loses their job?
Well, I think the first thing is concern, worry, perhaps even panic, feeling of not being valued. Depending on who you are, men tie their identity very much to what they do every single day. Now that we have a growing number of single women who are head of households, the fear factor is, how am I going to take care of the little ones? I'm on this chat, this global international chat, and I'm listening to individuals in the government sector who've been displaced. And the conversations are very frightening. Individuals are saying, my child was in, private school and I had to pull them out. Or I don't know how I'm going to pay for their college next year. Or I'm taking care of my parents and they were on my insurance. And now I have to rely on COBRA. I can't afford COBRA costs and have my parents on there as well. So these are very, very scary times. And the emotional toll, one of the things the news media doesn't talk about, we know suicide rates are going up in all age groups. And I would hate to see what the numbers are right now where people are thinking, well, maybe it's best for me just to check out. But we also know if you do that, some people don't realize if you take your life, you can't rely on that insurance policy. It doesn't cover, things like that. So I think it's real important that we realize that mental health matters always, and even now more than ever. And we need to have those conversations in our communities and let people know you're not alone. People don't want people to know that, hey, I lost my job. I was and I want to share this with you. I was at dinner 3 months ago. High-level professionals. A chemist was at the top. I had a PhD educator, top sales executive. Of the 7 people at the table, 6 had lost their jobs in the last 3 months prior. And these are individuals who are middle-aged, right? About to wind up their career and now wondering, now what?
Yeah. I know personally what happens emotionally and mentally when someone loses their job, because it happened to me. I worked for a company, a technology company in business continuity. So Y2K and the world trade situation, we were on board 24 hours a day for weeks, months even. And I gave a lot to that company. Had just gotten married. I was a young man, and then one day we got called into the boardroom and they began, I guess you all know why we're here. And I was like, no, I have no idea what's going on. And they laid the pink slips on us, if you will. And it was a mentally and emotionally stressful time for Mr. Gibbs, and I had to tell my wife, we're newlyweds, as I mentioned, hey, we're on one income for a while until I figure this out. And, especially when you build a bond with a company, and we're going back like 25 years now, and you give certain things to the company, you expect them to have your back. Unlike today, you may not expect that, but I kind of did expect that, and it was emotionally and mentally challenging for me. So I can just imagine with the economy being the way it is, the world the way it is now, the stress level got to be through the roof. What are some of the silent struggles that women are facing right
I think some of the silent struggles is the myth that we have to have it all together.
now?
And we have to, stand in our superwoman pose. And so we do that publicly, right? We put on the public face, we wear the mask, we're looking good, make sure the hair and nails are done. And then we go home and we're clipping coupons or sitting on the phone with creditors trying to negotiate, robbing Peter to pay Paul. And so I think it's the silent struggle because of community and the perception of how you should be as a woman, right? It's like you're strong, you're resilient. No, right now I'm broken, confused, scared. But I can't say that because what if my sister on the left of me is looking at me like, girl, I thought you had it together. And I know for me, you gave your example. When I came into the workforce, I'm dating myself, but back in Grand Redmond time, that was when we started out doing outsourcing as a country. And there were a lot of downsizing, right sizing, realignments. So in my entire career, I've never known where life is always easy. Every company, every organization that I've been with have been shuffling things around. Sometimes I've been impacted, sometimes I haven't. And I think the more you go through it, the more resilient you get because you realize this too shall pass. I will get over this. But even in all my struggles, Calvin, I can't say there was ever anyone I could turn to because I thought, what are they going to think about me? Are
Yeah,
my friends still going to be my friends because I'm
yeah,
broke?
yeah,
I'm having to rely on mom and dad to bail me out. That's how broke things got for me.
yeah,
And so I think for women, it's this mask that we wear, and we need to remove it and say it's okay. It's okay to be in the struggle. Let's come together collectively, really as community, and help one another.
yeah. That's one of the things I think we mostly need now is community. We need allies as well, to help each other get through whatever we need to get through. And then also there are the repeated rejections, when you go to try to replace that job situation, and that also affects confidence and motivation even.
That point is huge. So look right now, everything that's happening, all these people who are out of work, and they're competing with the youngsters coming out of college, right? For a lower paying job. So when we think about the unemployment rate is only based upon reported numbers. They're not reporting those that are underemployed, right? Remember I told you my time where I had to pick up the phone and call mom and dad.
Yeah,
I couldn't even get hired. And I don't say this to be debasing of anyone. I couldn't even get hired at Walmart because they said you're overqualified. But I was desperate. I needed a job. I needed income. I needed money. And I was willing to do anything legally to make it happen. So we're back there now with all these people. And then the workforce is changing. Future work is changing. AI is there. What do you do?
yeah, that is the question. That is the question. So let's shift gears a little bit and move into the next segment, which is okay, we've identified the problem. We're now in survival mode. So let's talk about financial, and practical strategies, smart moves in tough times. What would you
I
say
would
someone should do in the first 30 days after losing a job?
breathe.
What was that? Breathe?
Breathe, breathe. And
Okay.
I'm serious about that because when you are stressed, you don't realize how much pressure you're putting on yourself internally, right? you're putting so much stress on your organs, on your heart. This is about health. So breathing, you can't control it. It's happened. Find a way to say, okay, sometimes you have to pause and not do anything for 30 days just to get clarity of mind. When you have clarity of mind, then you can make strong, practical, strategic decisions. But when your mind is cluttered, you're not going to make the soundest moves. You're going to be busy, right? You're going to be spinning your wheels, but then at the end of the day, you haven't gotten anywhere. So sometimes it's just, you just got to breathe. If you want to stay in bed for a minute, stay in bed.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
so that, I know it sounds kind of silly,
No, it
but
doesn't.
I think when you do that, that's number one. And then number two, remind yourself who you are and all the amazing things you've accomplished. Because now you need to build up that morale and that ego, that self-esteem. And we forget how many amazing things we've done, right? So sometimes pull out that resume and say, oh my God, I forgot I did this. And I did this. And then start dissecting, okay, my resume is a composite of everything, but if I were to put it into categories and look at my expertise, where could I possibly move? And some people, you have all this expertise for maybe 10, 15, 20 years. Maybe it's a good time to do your own thing as a consultant. You may still want to find a job. There's nothing wrong with that. But now it gives you the opportunity to be innovative and creative and see how you can apply your skill sets in another way.
Okay. I'm glad to have you on the show because you are a financial analyst and strategist. Uh, so, how can women stretch their finances during this unemployment hiatus? That's what my wife calls unemployment, a unemployment hiatus.
An involuntary hiatus. It's that's a difficult question when I'm looking at right now. And I say right now because we know we're at war. So now we have increased cost, right? Gas prices right now for just regular is ranging between $3.96, $3.99 a gallon. So it's more burden being placed on you just in meeting your day-to-day requirements. So the first thing I would say is look at what is the non-negotiables that you cannot do without. Obviously, roof over your head, utilities, gas in your car, and food, if I didn't say that.
Right.
So those are your requirements. And then ask yourself if and I'll use food, for example. Maybe you're a big foodie. Stop. Just stop. I remember a friend of mine, this is so funny. During the pandemic, I got hooked on Uber Eats because I'm a foodie. Well, I didn't realize until the end of the year, Calvin, how much money I was spending on Uber Eats. But that habit continued because I love the convenience. So sometimes you have to stop, get uncomfortable for a little bit so that you can keep your head above water. So one of the things is where do I have my luxury spending? Start cooking a little more. If your kids are in every single, extramural activity, do they have to be in every single thing? Because it's very costly now. So I'm not saying take everything away from them, but wherever they're excelling, keep them there. But they don't need to be in piano and violin and the flute and let them breathe as well. And then I think the other thing is looking at what you do have. So do you have any reserves? Most people we've heard this, Calvin, are one paycheck away for being homeless. So what reserves do you have that you can use? That retirement account, let that be your last resort.
Right.
Right? But sometimes you have to go there to avoid being on the street. But look at what you have. Hopefully you have something, but some people don't. And that's okay. Then say, well, what can I do in the meantime? For me, I started tutoring.
Mm.
And then I took some really small consulting gigs, which ended up exposing my experience that led me into 3 major consulting contracts with the CDC. So you got to swallow your pride and see, what do you know how to do that you can get paid for.
That's right. And I like a few minutes ago when you said that you need to really take stock of what you've done. And because even if you can sew or knit, that's an opportunity to make some money doing something. Last weekend, I was a judge in a national speech competition for African American students. And I've done this several years in a row, and there's one guy that's been with me in the oratory field or competition. And we just say hi and we do what we have to do. We judge, and this time he came up to me and was like, "Calvin, it's so good to see you. Man, you're famous." I was like, "What are you talking about, Fred?" He's like, "You started the DuPage Theater Group." And I was like, "Yeah, I did." "Man, they still going strong and everybody talks about you. And when I heard your name, it sounded familiar. And now," I started taking stock. I was like, "Yeah, I did do that like 17 years ago. And they are still going strong." But I forgot. That's a talent that I had, directing theater. And if I ever need to fall back on that, that's something I can do. So yeah, taking stock of what you've done, no matter how minute you may think it is, that's always something you can um, fall back on, find a way to leverage it out and make it work for you. We talked about communities stepping up and helping each other. Can you give a suggestion of how a community could step up and provide real support for someone that needs it?
I think the one thing is, and that's a whole mindset shift. We have gotten into this me, mine, and mine kind of mindset. And if we think back of like our grandparents era, parents and or grandparents in smaller communities, if one person had an issue, it seemed like the community would come together and help them out, right? If someone's home got destroyed in a storm, or the crops got destroyed, the community came together. But we don't even see community because we go in our home, we drive in our driveways, we open up the garage, lower the garage, kind of wave occasionally, but we don't really have community. We live in communities, but we don't have communities. And even the church, they're not there. They're not stepping up the way they should. We've seen that in major crises. I won't mention some of the major churches that have been mentioned in the news, but we saw where they could have opened their doors to be a shelter for those in need, but they chose not to until they got bashed throughout the news. And then all of a sudden, oh yeah, come in, one and all. So I think we have to stop looking at self-preservation so much that we forget about the person next door. Mm-hmm. And again, that can only happen if we have conversation, if we let someone know we're struggling. Because if we don't say anything, how will they know? Remember, we're wearing the mask. We're still driving the great car until hopefully someone doesn't come and repo it, but we're still driving it. We're still looking the part. I had a friend, and it's funny now. I mean, he's doing well, but he said he didn't have the heart to tell his wife he had lost his job. So he would get dressed every day and go out. She was thinking he was going to work every day, and he would spend the day in the library and go back home. Because he said he didn't want to deal with the stress with her, what she might think. And I think that's sometimes getting in the way of us with community, is this fear factor. What will people think? And again, it starts with, we've got to be able to be in a place where we can have those safe, honest conversations. And I think a lot of these community groups, activity centers now, are coming together as resources for people, whether it's healthcare, childcare, just retooling, from a skill set standpoint, are starting to bubble up even more in the different communities. And I think if anyone is in a place where you can make a difference, then you need to show up, go to these community meetings, introduce yourself, listen to the stories, because there are a lot of people hurting out there.
That is true. That is so true. And, coming from Brooklyn, New York, the community the block that we lived on was a two-way street, huge block, a lot of brownstones. And I was telling my wife just recently even that I knew everybody on the block. Everybody knew me. And as you said, now in suburbia, you drive your car right into the garage. There's nobody on the street. There's no kids on the street. Do kids even know the other kids on the block? They don't play outside anymore. There's no stoop or porch where people can sit outside and talk to the neighbors. And I know my neighbors because I made the effort to get to know them. Hot day in the summer, brought a beer out, couple beers out, and you get to know people, talk about sports, and you get to know people that way. But how many people actually put that effort into the community anymore? And like you said, even we have a homeowners association. We have board meetings. Very few of the homeowners attend. That's a great chance for community to come together. We all have this. We all have the same gripes and complaints and positive things to say as well. So why not come together and say it once every 3 months? 4 times a year. Let's get together. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, HOAs are, like you said, that's a brilliant place to come together. And you don't know who knows who. Like if you're at risk of possibly losing your home, there could be a person who's in mortgages there, right? Yeah. That can tell you, how to navigate the system. Or if you need a job, you never know. Paul down the street may say, wow, we're hiring. But if you don't, again, have the conversations, get from behind the mask, you struggle alone, unfortunately.
That is correct. Well, we're going to take a short break for a message from our sponsor. We'll be right back with Born to Speak to You TV. We're back. This is Born to Speak to You TV. I'm Calvin Gibbs. My guest is LaWanna Bradford, and we've been talking about the comeback blueprint, how to reinvent yourself or how to handle losing a job in this environment that we're currently in. This last segment of LaWanna is called the comeback, reinvention, power, and next steps, reinvention, power, and possibility. We talked about mindsets a few segments ago. What kind of mindset shifts are necessary to bounce back stronger? Not just come back, but bounce back stronger.
I think this would be probably a good time for me to just share one of my proprietary systems is called the R3. And there's three components: refocus, reframe, and reconnect. And so you have to start at the beginning. And we kind of tapped in on that. And the refocus, people think that's mindset. That's not. It's about being situationally aware, self-aware. What are your skills, your gifts, your talents? What market do you sit in? What's happening around you? What's the competition doing? What are the opportunities, the risks that may be facing you? And then once you see all these pieces, it's like this jigsaw puzzle. Now, this is a part where you have to realize we are creative, innovative beings by design. That's who we are. So now, as Martin Luther King said, what is your life's blueprint? Right? You have to decide, I'm in this, I got this jigsaw puzzle here, I see all the pieces. Now, what do I want to do with it? How do I want to take this and rebuild, redefine who I am? What will that look like? And not only design it, but believe it. Sometimes we come up with stuff and then we allow the bubble talk of others to get in our way, get in our head, and then we push it aside. No, this is you. So you can reshape, reframe yourself in the world around you, however you want it. So now you've done that, and you've developed, and I'm really simplifying this, you've developed the rules of engagement. The mindset piece is the last piece. So again, reframe, reconnect, reframe, refocus, reframe, and reconnect. And the reconnect is mindset. Because I've been beat up, I've been bruised, I'm now self-doubting. Perhaps my significant other is browbeating me. I feel like I just can't do it anymore. But I just designed something that was brilliant. It's my design. It's my lane. No one competes in my lane but me. The mindset piece is a step in and believe. And not only intend to do well and succeed, but commit to succeed. And that's the biggest difference when we look at world-class athletes. They may not have been the best, right? But they committed to doing the work. They committed to just over and over again, practicing, rehearsing, in the theater. It's honing your craft over and over again, designing this character, this theatric of who is Calvin, who is LaWanna, and then stepping in and be determined to win.
That's it. Thank you so much for that. When we talk about mindset, there is a mindset shift that needs to happen. And then the uncomfortable part, I feel, is the grind. Because now you're putting the pieces of the puzzle back together. Some may not fit in right away, but you have to find a way to start framing this puzzle. And that's the grind. Doing things differently, doing it over and over until you can get to the point that you can start seeing some success.
But it is the grind, but that grind is so exciting when you developed it, right? Now you're not grinding in someone else's dream. This is yours.
That's it. And I love to grind for myself. I'm gonna tell you, I love it. My wife and I, we celebrate small successes. It's almost like we look for small things that we can say, yo, let's go out and, have a party. Let's have a great dinner because we did so and so and so. And we do that. And I enjoy that because I believe in life, you have to celebrate the small things that happen as well. Those small
Definitely.
things are going to motivate you to move on into the next chapter, the next, bigger things. So, yeah, I have one last question for you, and that question is, what long-term changes need to happen to prevent this from continuing? When I say this, I'm talking about the job situation, um, the changes of policies, so on and so forth. In your opinion, what long-term changes need to happen to make sure this doesn't happen again anytime soon?
To say what long-term changes would be, right now we've rolled back. We are probably where we were in the 60s. And when I say we, people of color here in this country. So now we have to make up time, but you never can make up time. I think what we can talk about is what can we control? Because I can say what the powers that be can do. They can wave a magic wand, sprinkle some pixie dust, and voila, we're now in the magic kingdom. But that's not reality. But what is real and what's in your control is you right now.
Mm.
And what is it that you want for your family? What can you do for your family to educate the next generation to insulate themselves when mayhem happens? Because mayhem will happen. It'll look different, but it will happen for them.
Amen.
So, and I think that's the one thing that we can do is empower our children with belief in whose they are. I'm a woman of faith. Always looking at reinventing their skill sets, getting better and better at who they are. Don't worry about competing with what's happening to the left and right. And supporting them, because honestly, Calvin, our time technically has passed. It's time for us to pass on the baton.
Mm-hmm.
So what can we do? Start educating, start empowering, get them ready, because the fight is real. We are warriors. Now we want to make sure that we create an army of warriors that can defend, protect, and ensure that our communities not only last for today, but are sustainable for our children, children's children, and their children. So again, stay in your seat of control and be the voice of power and influence, because the kids are looking at us to point the way.
All right. Well, thank you so much, LaWanna. This has been a great conversation on the comeback blueprint. And if you want to follow up the conversation with LaWanna, her email is LaWannaBradford.com. That's her website, I'm sorry. And you can reach her there. And she definitely will give you some guidance in the right direction. It's on the screen right now. LaWannaBradford.com. LaWanna, thank you for being a great guest. Thank you for giving the knowledge to our viewers. And I wish you the best. If I can ever be of service, please look me up.
Thank you so much, Calvin, for having me. This has been great.
Thank you again. Right now, we're going to have a short video, and we'll be right back. I'm Calvin Gibbs. This is Born to Speak to You TV, and here is the segment we like to call Born to Rise. I often get asked, how do I get motivated? What motivates me? Well, I want to let you know that your biggest source of motivation are your own thoughts. So think big. The bigger you think, the more you can motivate yourself, not only to win, but to help somebody else, to make your dreams turn into goals, turn into success. So the biggest source of motivation is right up here. Your own thoughts. Own them, embrace them, love them because they're yours, and motivate yourself.
From the streets of Brooklyn, where stories grow wild, to the glow of the stage where the dream meets the child. A quiet flame, a hidden spark, drawn to the words that lit up the dark.
This is the segment we like to call Straight Talk with Calvin, and let me give it to you straight. We're living in a time where women are being pushed out of jobs, but expected to hold on to everything like nothing happened, hold it all together like nothing ever happened. 600,000 women, Black women, didn't just lose their job. We lost security, we lost stability, and in some cases, we lost identity. And here's what bothers me personally. We keep calling this a market shift, just like it's numbers on a screen. But no. These are real people. Your job may have been taken, but your power was not. You're still skilled. You're still valuable. You're still necessary. And if the system isn't making space for you, then maybe it's time for you to create your own lane. This is not the end of your story. This is the part where you have a chance to rewrite it. And trust me, the comeback is always louder than the setback. This is Straight Talk with Calvin. As we close out this episode of Born to Speak to You TV, let's take a look at a few things that you need to carry with you. First, this crisis is real, but so is your ability to respond to it. Second, your job may have changed, but your value has not. And third, your comeback doesn't happen by chance. It happens by strategy, it happens by mindset, it happens by action. Today wasn't just about what's happening. It's about what you're going to do next. So here's your call to action. This is for all the viewers. Take one step towards your comeback, whether that's updating your resume, learning a new skill, or exploring a new opportunity. Share this episode with someone who needs to hear it, and start having real conversations about solutions, not just struggles. Because the more we talk about it, the more we can change it. I want to give a special thank you to LaWanna Bradford for bringing clarity, strategy, and real solutions to this critical moment. Your insight is not just valuable, it's necessary. I also want to thank DFN Broadcast Studios for providing this platform and the opportunity to bring this conversation to life. On the screen is the QR code where you can scan it to see not only this episode, but all episodes of Born to Speak to You TV. And to everyone watching, remember this: your setback is not your ending. It's your setup for something greater. This is Born to Speak to You TV, where your voice has power and your story deserves to be heard. I'm your man, Calvin Gibbs, and I am born to speak to you. Let's speak life into the moments that matter. And I'll see you at the next episode.
streets of Brooklyn, where stories grow wild to the glow of the stage where the dream meets the child. A quiet flame, a hidden spark, drawn to the words that lit up the dark. Curtains rose and so did he, finding power in poetry. One voice, one mic, one sacred truth. Every word he spoke uncaged the youth. He saw the world try to silence the bold, but his soul was wired to break the mold. Now he walks in purpose, pure and true. He was born to speak to you. He's got that rhythm in his truth, that fire in his flow. Speaking life into the moment, watch it grow. Every phrase